Hey there, cool cats and kittens. Welcome back to Mr. Barton's factoring by grouping lesson. So this week you guys are going to do a factoring by grouping assignment. And these ones are super easy because you do them all the same way. So we can tell these problems are factoring by grouping because they're going to have 4 terms. So if we take a look at example number 1, careful, don't throw your stuff. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So we have to do factoring by grouping on this problem. Every single time in this class you see 4 terms, you're going to be doing factoring by grouping. So for factoring by grouping, what you want to do is you want to look at the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. And our first step is going to be taking out a GCF from both of them. So if we look at this first group, we want to ask ourselves what number goes into 2 and 6. And then we're going to ask ourselves if they have any variables in common and how many we can take out. So there is a factor that goes into 2 and 6. That factor is 2. So we're going to put the 2 out here in front. Then if we look at our variables, they both have an x. So we need to take out as many x's as possible. Remember, factoring out x's is kind of like bullying. You have to be fair about it. You can't take more from this one than you took from this one. So since this one only has 2 x's, we're going to take 2 x's from both of these. So we're going to put x squared on the outside. Okay. Now, we need to write what's left over after we take out the GCF. So we had 2, we took 2 out. So when we're doing that, we're dividing. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then we ask how many x's are left. We had 3 x's, we took 2 of them out, so we're going to have 1 x left. There's an invisible 1 exponent there. Okay, bring down our plus sign. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so we're going to have a 3. And then we had 2 x's, but we took all 2 of them out, so this 3 doesn't have any x's left. Okay, now we move on to the next term, the next group, and we're going to factor a GCF out of these. And when we're done with that, we want our parentheses to match these ones exactly. So because these are negative, we can't just take out a 7. We have to take out a negative 7 to change these into positives so they match this. So we're going to put a negative 7 down. And then these don't have any variables in common. So we're going to just divide these both by negative 7. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 is positive 1. And then bring down our x because we didn't take any x's out. Negative 21 divided by negative 7 is positive 3. So we can see this is 1x plus 3 and this is 1x plus 3. So those match, which means we're on the right track. Now we only have one more step. These matching parentheses here, we're going to factor these out. This thing is one term because this is being multiplied to this. A term is just any 2 things being multiplied together. So this and this make one term. So this term has an x plus 3, and then this is one term and it has an x plus 3. So we're going to factor the x plus 3 out. So our x plus 3's factor out. And I'm dropping the 1 here because coefficients of 1 don't do anything, so we don't need to keep it. And then we have a second set of parentheses. All we have to do is collect these coefficients and stick them together in here. So we have 2x squared, bring down our minus 7. And then this is the answer to this problem. At this point, you want to make sure that you double check something though. You want to look for a GCF. And that stands for greatest common factor. So if we look here, x and 3, they don't have any variables in common and they don't have any numbers in common either because the x is just a 1, so nothing in common there. 2 and 7 don't have any numbers in common and there's no x's on the 7, so neither of these has any GCF we can take out. Okay, so let's do another example just to kind of get you guys in the swing of things, and then we'll look at 2 weird examples on the back. So now we're going to move down here to the second example. This is exactly like the first one. We're just going to do it again for practice. So again, we look at the first two terms together and then the second two terms together. And we want to ask ourselves, what number goes into 15 and 6? So the number that goes into both of those, of course, is 3. Then we ask, do they have any variables in common? They both have a's, and the smallest exponent is a squared. So we're going to take 2 a's out of both of these. So a squared. In the parentheses, we need to write down what's left over. So 3 goes into 15 5 times. We had 3 a's. We took 2 of them out, so there should be 1 left. 3 goes into 6 2 times, so we're going to put plus 2. And there were 2 a's. We took 2 out, so now there are none left. Okay, moving on to the next one. Again, we have negatives here, so we need to take out a negative to switch it to be a positive to match this. And then the number that goes into both of these is 8. So we're going to take an 8 out. And they don't have any variables in common. So we're just taking out the 8. So we're going to divide both of these by negative 8 and write down the leftover. So negative 40 divided by negative 8 is positive 5. Bring down our a. Negative 16 divided by negative 8 is positive 2. So there we go. And now we look, this and this match. So we are going to factor out these two common factors from these two terms. So we're going to put the 5a plus 2 in front, and then we're going to bring down the two leftover pieces and put them in their own parentheses. 3a squared minus 8. Then we look for a GCF just to make sure our answer is good. So 5 and 2 don't have a GCF. There's no common a here. 3 and 8 don't have a GCF, and then there's no common variable. So this one's done, and that's the answer. Okay, so now moving to the next page. I don't know what that is. Ignore that. Looking at example number 3. This one's going to be a little bit weird after we're done with the factoring. So let's go ahead and just start this problem like all the rest of our problems. So we look at the first two terms and the last two terms together, and we look for a common GCF to take out. So here, 2 and 1, because there's no number there, it's an invisible 1, they don't have any numbers in common to factor out, so we're not going to take out any numbers. But they both have x's, so we're going to take out as many as we can, which is 2. So we're going to take out an x squared here. This 2 comes down. We had 3 x's, we took 2 out, so there's 1 left. This 1 comes down, plus 1. We had 2 x's, we took them both out, so the 1 doesn't get any x's. Over here, we need to take out the GCF. 9 goes into 9 and 18, but again, because these are negative and we want them to come out positive, we have to take out a negative 9. So there's our negative 9. Negative 9 goes into negative 18 positive 2 times. Bring down the x because we didn't take any variables out. Negative 9 divided by negative 9 is positive 1. So these match again, and now we can take out these matching parentheses. So we'll put our 2x plus 1, and then we're going to group our x squared and our minus 9. Now, we look for a GCF. There's no GCF for 2 and 1. There's no GCF for x squared and minus 9. But this blue one is a special type of factoring that we saw in the last video. This is a difference of squares. So we can treat this thing like x squared plus 0x minus 9. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 9 and add up to 0. So this thing is going to factor to x plus 3 and x minus 3. So 3 times negative 3 gives me the negative 9, and 3 minus 3 is 0, so this middle x term isn't there. Okay. Now, we factored this. This factor can't go away, so we have to bring it down. And this is our final answer. So you might have to do that. I think you have 1, maybe 2 of those on your homework this week. Okay. And then one more weird one, just in case it's on your homework so you guys don't freak out. Again, look at the first two terms. look at the last two terms. Take the GCF out of these. So 2 goes into 4 and 6. X squared goes into x squared and x to the third. 2 goes into 4 2 times. We had 3 x's, we took 2 out, so there will be 1 left. 2 goes into 6 positive 3 times. We had 2 x's, we took 2 of them out, so there are no x's here. So this is just 2x plus 3. Now we look at this second one. 2x plus 3. 2 and 3 don't have any common factors. And then this has an x, but this doesn't, so we can't take out any variables. So because this thing doesn't have a GCF, what we do is we say the GCF is 1. So we put plus 1, and then 1 goes into 2 2 times, bring down the x. 1 goes into 3 3 times. So do you see how this doesn't change, but we get this weird 1 in front? You want to make sure you have the 1. So now, this and this are like terms, so we factor them out again. So we have 2x plus 3, and then we group our coefficients together, 2x squared plus 1. All right, so there are a couple of examples for you guys to follow. If you didn't quite get all that, make sure you go back, rewind the video, rewatch it. Factoring by grouping is usually something you guys are pretty good at. So if you need help, let me know in band, or email me, or ask your friends, or Google it, or use Photomath, or you know, whatever other creative methods you can figure out to find the right answer. Stay safe. Make sure you donate to Big Cat Rescue. Carol Baskin is a crook. Have a great day, you guys.